Hello, everyone. My name is Reggie Barnes. I'm the Director of Patient Partnership for the Autoimmune Registry. Welcome to the April presentation of our webinar series. Before I introduce our guest speaker, John Muller, I would like to turn it over to our founder, Aaron Eben, to say a few words.
Thanks, Reggie. And I hope my internet is working. We're very pleased to welcome John and GettingUp.org. It's a nonprofit focused on supporting people living with chronic and often overlooked diseases. Like the Autoimmune Registry, Getting Up works across a wide range of conditions, helping individuals navigate the physical, emotional, and practical challenges that come with long-term illness. Inclusion Body Myositis is a progressive muscle disease John will talk about, and it illustrates many of the issues that Getting Up aims to address: delayed diagnosis, limited treatment options, and the day-to-day impact of mobility and independence. Rather than focusing on a single disease, the organization takes a broader approach, recognizing that many rare and chronic conditions share common barriers. We feel a strong alignment with Getting Up and its cross-disease perspective. By looking across conditions like IBD and others, Getting Up focuses on shared experiences rather than isolated diagnoses, allowing it to develop solutions that can scale and reach more people. Now let's have Reggie introduce John.
Wonderful words, Aaron. Uh, I have the wonderful opportunity to introduce a good friend, John Muller. As Aaron said, he's the founder of the Getting Up organization, which is a 100% volunteer organization that's dedicated to raising awareness, funding research, and inspiring hope for patients that are living with rare disease, which is IEP, inclusion myositis. With that, I will turn it over to John. John?
Thank you, Reggie. Hello, everybody, and thank you for your time this morning or this afternoon or wherever time zone you may be in. We want to first extend our heartfelt appreciation to Reggie and the team at Autoimmune Registry, and Aaron, thank you for providing this platform for us to share our story. They do so much for the rare disease community, connecting candidates to clinical trials and helping them get placed. Their website has a myriad of great information, and just thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. We're a boots on the ground solution that changes patient outcomes. We do that primarily through research, but helping where we can fund trials. We're a volunteer-powered model, and my name is John Patrick Muller with GettingUp.org. It's a 501c3 all-volunteer nonprofit. Our goal is to find treatments for neuromuscular diseases and supporting the research. There are a lot of organizations out there that have different focuses and multiple focuses. Our focus is research. That's our mission. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our history and how we've done some successful fundraising, some that we're new at, even as I'm presenting here today. We'll introduce at our annual function coming up a week from this Sunday and Monday. We believe in advocacy and breaking down the barriers that keep us from moving forward. So we support research. We support rare disease awareness. We work a lot with IBM patients and IBM doctors and focus on that, but we're not limited to that because, as has been said, we believe that there's a lot of cross continuation in medicine and treatments that will help one to the other, or at least aspects of it. And we all know there are so many rare diseases. I hear 7,000, I hear 10,000, whatever that number might be. It doesn't seem to be going away. And I heard recently on the news that there are more chronic illness amongst Americans than ever before. The percentages, I can't remember the numbers, but it's something that I think is deeper than we're going to just find medications for. It's a bigger picture. We do everything that's happened at gettingup.org happened within pretty much this house. My wife, my son, who's a firefighter, uh, and I work to find different donations and things that can help us raise money, help us get the word out. My wife runs the volunteers. I have a partner, or we have a partner in Philadelphia. Her name is Romy, and she helps a lot. These are, in fact, more than I can say. Did write a book about the subject and dedicated it to Romy because she's such a rainmaker. But these are examples of a couple of her T-shirts that we've used in around Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Atlantic City because that's her residence. Um, we have pretty much just private donations. We don't have an affiliation with any particular pharma company. Although if you're out there, we're sure we'd love to visit. Um, we've run hundreds of PSAs. I'll try to play one in a moment, but they're basically just, don't ignore the system symptoms. This is not you getting old. These are things you should be looking into. We have recently a Chicagoland person with had a wheelchair van that the dealer was not honorable in the least. Uh, we went after it with social media and letters and helped uh, and got the state attorney general involved, but uh, helped them find a resolution to their van. And just little things that we can do, like send hand bars out to veterans that can't get up off the toilet that for one reason or another are not funded well enough to be able to even afford that. There's a few products that we recommend for people that have disabilities. That's one. Of course, grab bars are really important. So far through our format, in 3 years, we were able to donate $85,000 to research. We hope to add about another 25,000 to that come a week from this Sunday and Monday. And then we have a nice, clean partnership. I say partnership, we're totally separate entities, but at the University of Kansas, partially because of my story and how that got started, being diagnosed with ALS, and then meeting these people at the University of Kansas, and including Dr. Jawdat and Dr. Domachky, which I'll mention them again. We've helped fund a couple different trials. I've been involved personally, been in 3 trials. I'm in one right now with Biosenics, which is a company that makes a wearable study bracelets. It almost looks like an Apple Watch on each hand, then a pendant around your neck, and it helps track and it's a phase 1 trial, but it's pretty exciting stuff. And I'm also came out of the sirolimus or rapamycin trial that was canceled in the U.S., but it was also then um, entered. I was prescribed the sirolimus, and I take a 1 milligram daily pill. And although I'm not really ready to talk about what those results are, I will be writing another book that we'll publish a year from now with very specific statistics, and it'll all be anecdotal because I'm not a physician. But so our volunteer structure, we run lean. There's no salaries, there's no overhead. I build the website. I did all of the legal work, and I'm not my history is building materials. We have an all volunteer team, and we have event organizers that pretty much is friends in the neighborhood and my wife, and we run a small, manageable, and highly focused group. Coming up, like I said, this weekend, we'll have a gala dinner on Sunday night, which will be about 80 people. And then golfers, we limit it to 72 golfers so that we can keep the play moving. And we ask our sponsors to sponsor a hole, and we have 18 of them. And then we have other sponsors for other events happening during the golf tournament, like closest to the hole. We're going to give away a $65,000 truck for hole number 16 for anybody that can get that in there in one shot. Helps drive. These are a shout out to my medical team, and Dr. Domachki is well. They're all three of these men are true healers. They look at this in a way that is different than I've been exposed to, and I'm blessed, truly blessed, to have these people as part of my medical team. Dr. Domachki, I had no idea when I first met him, but this is an internationally recognized man who speaks from Sydney, Australia, to Riyadh, to everywhere to talk about primarily inclusion body myositis, but myositis in general. Dr. Jawdat is my primary neurologist, and he is the one that discovered by shaking my hand. I wasn't gonna, but so I was on my way to Mayo Clinic and they instructed me that since I lived in Kansas City, that it was my best bet to get hooked up with some local people. I was going to need psychiatrists and social workers and other people. I got through about three or four of those. I had to go. There was like 10 people I had to get hooked up with at the Landon Center at the University of Kansas Medical Center in Kansas City. And Dr. Jawdat, the man in the middle in that picture, shook my hand and wanted to know what I was doing there. He hadn't seen any of my documents, shook my hand and told me I didn't have ALS. He has 400 ALS patients. I'm not one of them. So he guessed right on the spot. He said, "You have something called inclusion body myositis. It's not ALS." My wife and I, of course, a very emotional moment once you come to grips with ALS for a few months and believe that to be the case. Anything other than that is pretty exciting. So IBM was actually a relief. But Michael Monaco is my primary, and he was the first person to discover something was wrong watching me step up on a curb. We live in the same neighborhood. He's what they call an MD VIP. He was quite the man to get things started in the right direction. This is all fueled by my lived experience. This journey began with a diagnosis of ALS, as I just said. And I've been in three different trials: a phase 1 stem cell trial. That was a pretty interesting process. The phase 2/3 sirolimus trial. And I'm currently in the trial with Biosenics, which is a movement trial. We helped fund the first Biosenics trial with a separate gift, and it measures your gait, balance, fatigue, activity levels. It doesn't record any audio, but it does record every movement. And I don't know what each rare disease has, but there's a scale that we go through on each doctor's visit with IBM, and it's all pretty anecdotal as far as is it better or worse or the same for you to get out of bed, roll over, adjust the sheets, use a fork, cut meat, and so forth. Uh, that has a lot of variables in it that can be some months you may have one thought process and another you might have another. So this wearable is going to eliminate those variables and get it down to truly what's happening. I tried to test this earlier, so I don't think I'm going to hit those speakers. I had two of them going off, but we do have one pharma company that gives us separate from everything else we do, $5,000 to go in and gather data for them. we've been doing it this year. We did it at Rite Aid in West Philadelphia. I don't know how well your geography is, but that's a very much an underserved uh, part of Philadelphia. And we launched some 30-second radio ads and did, because it was a public service and because Romy was in the radio business for her career, we've been able to run an amazing number of spots that talk about don't ignore the symptoms. You can also catch this on our website if you really want to listen to them. But the bottom line is just trying to get the message out to as many people as possible, and then to do surveys. And it's hard to do surveys, a lot harder than you might think, in that people don't want to talk to you. And in these underserved communities, I've found that or Romy has found firsthand, that we're not, they're not as willing to share the information. So we give out like $5 Starbucks gift cards if they'll answer a few questions. And we've had some really good response there, and we've had great website traffic. We haven't raised any money through that system, but we are doing a good job getting the work. Oh no. Sorry about that. That's why I didn't want to do that. That was an accident. Uh, our website's been built through the IBM patient lens. We focus on real world needs and practical and accessible content. We have about 6,000 annual website visitors with 18,000 page views. So when they get in there, typically they're looking around a little bit. And we have somehow accumulated 60,000 social media followers through LinkedIn, YouTube. Don't really think much about Instagram, but there's people on there. And I think we do some stuff on TikTok and others, but primarily it's those three: LinkedIn, um, YouTube, and Instagram. And we continue to expand that presence through we constant contact newsletters and posts that we do. I really like LinkedIn the best because it gives me the more connected people and not a lot of that silly stuff. So this is a book that we produced for 20. I think we sent it out in 2025. But we've sold almost a couple thousand of these books, so it helped get the word out. Um, and really, some of those sales were repetitive people that just wanted to support me and hand out the books. So in reality, it's probably somewhere more like 1,200 books. A lot of author copies have been sent out. Um, this is available on Amazon. All of the products that we've come up with in the last 6 months are all direct. Any monies that are spent go directly into the research account and sent to the University of Kansas, in this particular, all of these, for to help fund the research. So, we want to work towards patient advocacy, fall prevention, mobility tools, caregiver guidance. That's a tough job, and plain language science. I try to break it down for people to make it easy to talk about. It's all written through my IBM patient lens, but focused on real world needs, practical and accessible content. This book is not about despair. It's a story of resilience, faith, and action, and the action that I've taken to try to. Also, I wrote this book on rock and roll because I like rock and roll. And I have about 3,000 pieces of vinyl in my house in the music room. And I collected it my entire life. So I know a little bit about it. I decided to write a book on it too. Also goes into, if you want to scan that QR code, it will take you to the gettingup.org website. And that website it'll actually take you to a page for all of the products that we have available. There's a couple vinyl albums that we have produced from AI artists that we have created, along with backstory and songs. And we've written a couple hundred songs, and they're all on this at this point through it's uploaded into Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, the 28 different platforms available in 250 countries. So what we do matters, and it matters because there's no time, um, no time, and patients deserve this urgency. We all have, well, let's face it, when you're first diagnosed, you don't have any idea what's going on. It's a whole new event-driven change in your life, and we want to try to make that as comfortable for people as we can. If they'll reach out to us, I speak to a lot of people every day, literally from around the world. I could tell you stories about a New Zealand lady who was traveling to Mayo in Minnesota a couple times a year for her help when for her IBM when the Prone Institute in Sydney is a fantastic institution. Sure save her a lot of flying from New Zealand to Minneapolis versus New Zealand to Sydney. Um, but we try to do as much as we can with individuals and and support research. That's all we want to do is find treatment or cures. We don't really care about all of the other things that go along with that. There's lots of other organizations that are promoting all of the other issues that go around rare diseases. We just want to deal with research. We want to find treatments for these rare diseases. There currently is no treatment for inclusion body myositis, but I think we're getting close on some things. This is our website. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime. And that's my personal email address, jmuller@gettingup.org. In closing, we say never give up and never surrender. We're built by patience and we're powered by purpose. We have a reason that we're out here today. We thank you very much for your time and attention. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Well, John, what a wonderful, inspirational story. And thank you for writing the book. Uh, as a person that lives with several rare diseases, uh, technology doesn't always work all the time, and it kind of makes a misstep. But I do have a questions from a genetic standpoint. Uh, from my understanding, there's a test that identifies IBM. Is that correct?
You know, yes, but it's more along the idea that whether it's prevalent or not, it's not definitive. The definitive answer is a muscle biopsy, and really has to be done to define and be sure that it's a very rare disease, unless you happen to be military. That's an interesting point, and that is that they have no idea what causes it. But I'm absolutely convinced, which is the reason I'm on the path that I am personally, is that if you are part of the general population, you've got something like 3 to 4 people, 5 people per million that will contract IBM. Not genetic, although I believe there is a big genetic component to it. Um, if you're served in any branch of the military with no connection that anyone's been able to figure out so far, it's more like 200 per million. So that tells me pretty clearly that there's an external stimulant of some kind. We live with 10,000 chemicals in our air. We live with 10,000 chemicals being put in our food. And so I focus on the food because I can affect that. and try to eat, I eat very cleanly to try to overcome what it is that is in our food supply. I know it sounds silly, but I've got proof based on my DNA that it is having an effect. So I'm going to stick on that process with a high protein diet, with the sirolimus creating a autography to get the trash out or the dead cells, and hopefully with the high protein content, I can build muscle. I've got 1 year under my, actually 15 months under my belt of tracking this data. I'm going to do it for another 12 months for a total of 27 months. And then I'll publish the next book. And that is going to address the genetic aspect of it, although uh, I don't believe at this point that there's a blood test or a genetic test that can tell you, unless it's a familia, because there are two kinds. There's the small f IBM or small s IBM. Mine is a small s. They say that there's a separate one that is genetically identifiable, but it's a very, very small percentage of the people, supposedly small percentage. Although I think my mom she passed at 88 with a lot of mobility issues. I don't know for sure, but I think there may have been some connection there. Did that answer your question, Reggie? I'm sorry.
No, it actually did. And I think it plays into what you said earlier, that your focus is research, and research is the door or the key to identifying what is truly going on. And with research, we're able to identify it. Like you said, there's not a definitive. And by addressing all the areas you're talking about, it provides the tool to find out exactly what's going on. And I'm glad you mentioned your focus on doing surveys. And that's extremely important. Getting firsthand data from people is actually very important in the research end. Julie, you have the question?
Yes, John. For people who are, or patients who are interested in taking a more data-driven approach like you, what kind of tests or tracking do you think are the most useful to start with? And how should they bring that to their medical team and advocate to have those tests done?
I've created an IBM, what I call an IBM dashboard, and I track everything. I say that in that while you're in a trial, you are tested. There's a lot of blood work. So I take all of that blood work for the last 3 years and load it into, um, well, now it's all loaded into an AI program, and it would be easy enough. Honestly, I wish I would have started with a different one, but I started with chat. So that's the one I store my data in. I store my DNA in, and I do have it doing different analysis for me. However, the spreadsheet itself is food intake. I measure protein. I measure fasting, the number of hours. I measure my sleep. I measure everything that I think has an effect on muscle. So I do 6 minute walks. I do a couple of those a day. I also have a cardiovascular activities that I do 4 or 5 days a week. I use resistant bands. So these I track, and I've got it down to, I don't go into great detail. I just, since resistant training is, I know exactly what that means. I just check the box. So at the end of the day, I'll go back. I try to get my meals in as I'm going along, but at the end of the day, I'll make sure that the everything has been loaded. And my goal at the end of this year, or about this time next year, is to be able to take all of that data to see what is or is not. Now, in my case, my stack, which is mostly listed in the book, my stack is for me. It only would work for me. because I have it geared to my body's uh, insulin resistance, my body's lack of B12 production, my body's genome has a lot to do with what I put in my body. I don't have the ability to process any sugar, but yet I was a
Mm.
heavy drinker for, 40 years. Um, so you take all the sugars out of my system, it's improved my overall health over the last few years. It's funny because I'm now healthy as a horse, but sick as a dog. I mean, my numbers are fantastic, and it's all because I'm living a different lifestyle. So lifestyle plays a big part of it, and it took me a little while to straighten that all out. And then, your medications and what I'm taking as far as supplements is what I would track. And I would ask my doctor, my primary or my neurologist. I ask all three of those gentlemen before I added anything to my stack. I'm studying peptides right now. So I got a response back from two of them. And they said, just ignore it. There's no way that you should be adding peptides to what you're doing right now. Just do what you're doing. So that would be, I go to them with a lot of data, and and then they tell me, yes, go ahead and add that if you want to. Typically, it's more along that line. Not that it's going to make a difference, but yeah, it won't hurt anything. If you think it's important, go ahead. Most of people are pretty much, certainly within the medical world, are going to be geared primarily to pharma or anything that has to do with real data, FDA approved type stuff. A lot of things I'm doing. I do energy, I do frequencies, I do grounding, I do prayer, I do everything I can during the course of a day to stabilize this disease, which I believe I have done over the last 15 months. I hope that answered your question, Julie.
It did. Thank you so much, John.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, John.
John,
Any
how do
other
you
questions?
store, when you say you've loaded your DNA into that platform, can you tell me more about exactly what you're loading up?
Yeah, it's something I did a long time ago, way before any of this. The truth is, I wish I hadn't, because of generations to come, or even the generations that live at the same time I do. I have given away a lot of family information. I did a 23andMe. I don't, because I'm also a genealogist. I thought it was a really good idea 10 years ago. Now it's owned by BlackRock, and I'm not sure how smart that is. But I wanted everyone in that read the book to read what my genetic variants were, in hopes that there would be a geneticist that would see it and say, "Oh, you just need to." Anyways, so when you do the 23andMe, surprising amount of data is generated. Now they take all that data, and then you can get a copy of the raw data. And let me see if I can remember. I can't believe I can't remember this. Um, Let me see if it comes up real quick, and if it does, or I can. Here it is. It's called Genetic Life Hacks. Genetic, and then Life Hacks is one word. And it's a lady named Debbie Moon. She publishes a weekly newsletter. I've been getting it for years. And she takes each line item, and you've got to upload your raw data into her program. And then she sends you a weekly report about uh, infections, or how well your body's going to deal with fatigue, or how likely you are to have hot flashes, or it's how badly are you going to be affected by a mosquito bite. Just a lot of really off the wall stuff, but also really important stuff. I took that sheet of raw data that I gave her years ago, and then I uploaded it into AI to do for me basically what she does, and that is to give me a list of all variants. And so anything that's not typical, there's a variant of you know, not so bad, but not great. And then there's a variant level that would be, this is really something of concern. And then there's a variant level that says, this is the total mess and your body just doesn't do it. So I've took each one of those variants in groups and ran them again back through chat to say, how does this, what effect could this have on IBM? And it's like, well, this is this thing here is disrupts your mitochondria, and that disturbed mitochondria is giving the ability for it to release these misfolded proteins. So what can you do? What can I do then to build my mitochondria? And the answers are amazing. They're, eat more sardines, or put you need to have parsley in your diet. Eat a couple tablespoons of parsley with every meal. My muscle content was 43.8% 15 months ago, and today it's 50.1%.
Wow.
Somehow in my body there is an increase of a little over 6 multiplier points, or 15% increase in my skeletal muscle. It's absolutely not possible. So I don't talk about it. But I just but I just mentioned it. So there's something is working. I also have the sirolimus, which is I thought probably 80 or 90% of what my success has been on. By the way, I'm talking out of the side of my head because I'm a patient. I'm not a doctor. I have no medical training. I'm a sales guy. So, I mean, I literally traveled most of Europe, all of North America for 45 years. And that's what I did. Worked for kitchen and bath design along with multifamily and single family home builders. So I have no training in this, and each word that comes along is a word bigger than I understand. So as I read, I have to stop and go back and define words even to keep reading an article. But through it all, I've been able to assess that my body feels better when it has the right stuff being put in it. And maybe it's all psychosomatic or placebo effect, but a growth in skeletal muscle is not that. It's something else.
So
Thank you.
I have another question, and that is that patients with diseases like IBM are struggling on suboptimal treatments that mostly
Yes,
address symptoms rather than the underlying cause. When
yes.
we're asking patients to participate in a trial, they're often very nervous about changing their regimen. And even when the regimen they're on is not great, they don't think it's worth the opportunity for a small improvement in their disease with the new drug. Uh, do you have any ideas on how to address that challenge? How can we encourage participation in clinical trials?
I don't know how that would be an issue. So you've kind of hit me with a curveball. The day that I was offered to be in the stem cell trial, I couldn't have been. You mean it almost like in that movie Dumb and Dumber? It was like, you mean there's a chance? There's a chance? Yeah, I'm in. So um, I don't know that I could answer that other than to convince that person that advocacy, if their health is important to them, they're the only person, not their spouse, and the doctors care. They care very much, and they want to make it, but they've got to deal with insurance companies, and they got to deal with paperwork, and they've got to deal with what is approved. And uh, I I don't know. I hear this a lot that they see a neurologist once a year for 10 minutes, and that's their total medical treatment. It's like, well, you need to. And then I've had personal conversations with many people that say, "Oh, I don't have that information. I don't have the," yeah, but you know what clean food is. You can figure that part out. We know that your body needs protein, especially as we age, and a lot of these rare diseases, and we do focus a lot on adult onset rare diseases. Um, we know that protein is an issue for us as we age. So regardless of what your situation, even if you're not with a rare disease, protein affects everybody that's in our age group. So you know that you can have an effect. And if they blow that off and say, well, I drink 3 Coca-Colas a day, or I've got to have my scotch in the evening, you're feeding your, and by the way, I did all of that for years. So I'm totally, but once I realized uh, that I had this life-changing event, um, I changed all of that to make a difference. Other people may not, and if they don't, then maybe they don't care enough. And if they don't care enough, or maybe I don't know, I do they have a reason to live? I have a reason to live, and I want to be here for a long time to go.
Hey, John, this is Randy Berry. How are you?
Good, Randy. How about yourself?
Good, good. I might be able to answer that question about clinical trial hesitancy.
Great.
I'm in the Abcuro trial, and I think the hesitancy comes from a number of things. There's a history of these trials not being successful, and
Yep.
so individuals will
Most
say,
are
"Well,
not.
why is this one different?" So I think that hurdle needs to be cleared, and I think if the right approach and information is given of why it's different than the past failures, then I think that box can be ticked. The Probably the bigger hurdle is the exclusion criteria.
Yes.
And so for someone who's on, for example, sirolimus or sirolimus, who is thinking, we're potentially seeing, a slowdown in progression, are going to be reluctant if that's part of the exclusion criteria, and almost always is part of the exclusion criteria. So my personal kind of perspective on it is that the trials need to have fewer exclusion criteria and define more cohorts and say, okay, of our population, we have a subset who are using this particular, sirolimus, for example, and include that so that they can gather that data. Um, the other thing I think that, you just be practical about it is if people get in the trial, they're probably going to find ways around the exclusion criteria, and then you're going to have results that aren't necessarily, aligned with the input data. So that doesn't make the trial a scientific success either. So those comments I would close with. I think the other part of it is I think that the clinical trials are too slow to switch from what I call science mode to healthcare mode. Once the data is collected, once you do the tolerance testing, and then we do the efficacy testing. Once the efficacy testing is done and we go into open label phase, the floodgates should open. We should no longer restrict patients to the exclusion criteria. Let them continue in the open label phase. Let them communicate what they're taking in addition to the trial drug, so that data can be captured. Maybe a 1-2 punch is a better solution. Maybe it's a bad solution, and the drug manufacturer is going to want to know that if you take this drug in combination with this other drug, that it's going to have a bad result. You don't want people down that path. You're better to find out in a controlled environment than you are in just the open market. So that would be my comment or feedback on clinical trial hesitancy.
I really appreciate it. Those are some of the things that we pointed out to the sponsors. We're always trying to remove the exclusion criteria because, as we'll point out, um, you're going to get patients who aren't telling you, are going to hide stuff. And that's why for those of you who have signed up for clinical trials, as I have done, usually as a healthy subject, they really don't want you to know what the questions are going to be because they don't want people answering the questions to get into the trial. So, which of course is a little bit absurd since you can go on clinicaltrials.gov and see what those requirements are. So they're only hiding it in a very limited sense.
And
By the way,
that's a big disservice to the
it
patients.
is. Yes.
to exclude them, based on information that's being hidden from them. That, let them make a choice and say, okay, at least I know what the exclusion criteria is. In the case of Abcuro, it was not explicitly stated that sirolimus would be an exclusion drug. But I had someone else who was close to the action who gave me a heads up and said, you need to get off of that drug 6 months in advance so that,
Yes, the washout period.
yeah, exactly. Although I
Yeah.
think that for sirolimus, I think a couple of weeks is probably sufficient to probably clean up your system. But I'm not a
Well,
doctor
You know
either.
what?
I'm just a patient, and
It it's got a long shelf life, Randy. I mean, it's got a long half-life. I'm sorry.
yeah.
okay.
Another thing that we try to emphasize to the sponsors is that they only want patients with that disease. And autoimmune disease, as our research has shown, is comorbid in about 1/3 of people with autoimmune disease. And if you say, well, they can only have this disease, they may start with only that disease, but by the end of the trial, they could have easily picked up another one, or there could have been an undiagnosed second disease that's going to confound your work. So you might as well just accommodate that. But of course, then they want to recruit more patients, and that's why we're trying to get more patients into these trials. By the way, I didn't want to miss an opportunity to point out that Dr. Damachki and his team were speakers on our October 2024 series clinical trials webinar. So if you want to go into our archive on our website under events, you can see that it was all about CAR T therapy, which is emerging as a very promising area, but it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a great solution for a few people. It's very, very expensive, and I think the insurance companies are going to be pushing back very hard on that kind of treatment. They're going to say it's experimental, which it almost always is at this point. And it's hard for me, at least, I'm not a scientist, certainly not a drug scientist. It's hard to understand how that therapy, where your genes are re-engineered outside your body and put back in, it's a very complicated process. It's hard to see how that's going to scale and help all the millions of people with autoimmune disease. So,
It may end up being so individualized that every one of those patients will be treated almost with a combination of things unrelated to any other person.
yep,
Based on, I think the combination is going to be some type of a cocktail, maybe the ABC008, the sirolimus, and a CAR T treatment, and mix
yep.
all that together, and maybe that will be the treatment. But yeah, I would like to be on the ABC008 today, but it's not an option.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions?
Nope.
Yep.
With that, before I like to turn over to Aaron, if he has any final questions from
Nope. I think this has been fantastic. John, really appreciate this presentation. I'm wondering, we're also an all-volunteer group, as you are, and so we know how much you can really get done when you put your mind to it. And I really appreciate the work you're doing. And I hope to get the word out. Oh, I know what I was thinking is that we should put your book on our website somewhere. So after this call, we'll follow up and find the appropriate place to put it. Maybe if it helps patients with a particular disease, we can put it on the disease profiles for each of those disease profiles.
Yeah, this is it's probably more generic. I do look at it through the IBM lens, but it is a bigger, much bigger picture. And something I didn't touch on. People that get uh, through all of those different platforms, we have put out about 200 songs that relate to different aspects of having a rare disease. So I call it rare disease music, while some of it's just basically blues. I've designed 10 artists They each have about 20 songs under their name. That QR code I put up will take you to that spot. But if you have a desire to listen to that music on your Apple or your Amazon Spotify app, save it. And as those build, I recently, and I'll stop talking, but recently my wife and I found a blues artist we really liked, and she was so fantastic. I wanted to go find her and see her live. Turns out she didn't exist. She was an AI person, and her music was great. And I thought, well, if I can figure this out, so I did figure it out. And it takes a lot of work, but I was able to take all of my poetry and all of my old songs and convert them into this format. And now, if I could just get about a couple 100,000 people to and there's 8 billion people on the planet. It's in 250 countries. Who knows if one of those songs could just hit, that could generate $10,000 to $12,000 a month in income that would go directly to medical research. And so that's why gettingup.org owns the books, owns the vinyl records. I then took that digital music and then put it on vinyl because I like to collect vinyl. And it could be a thoughtful way for somebody that was, and I think the music's good. It's all from my point of view. So if you want to know what I think about anything, just listen to that music. Anyways, that's
Well
it. I
said,
just wanted to throw that plug in there.
Sure.
well said. Just want to say a few words and we'll be wrapping this up. Next month, guest speaker is Dr. Jane Buckner. She represents the Federation of Clinical Immunological Society, which will be very fact-based scientific information for us. And so sign in. I'll see everyone next month, Thursday, May 21st, same time, same place. Thank you for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Aaron.